End of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Well, folks, I'm back in the studio. You know, I've been out of the studio quite a bit these last couple of months. A lot of traveling. Attended a lot of events. I just got back from South Africa, where I attended Altron's 60th anniversary, and I also attended Altron's annual meeting for the direct and indirect business for Altron Document Solutions. What an amazing experience it was. Before I get started, though, the first thing I got to do, I got to hang up the badges to prove that I actually go to these events. So let me hang this up here with the badge collection. Ladies and gentlemen, South Africa, what an amazing experience. You know, I got to tell you, over the last, year and a half, 2 years, we've seen some pretty big turmoils in our industry. I think our industry's finally recognized the fact that it's not really about a transition. It's really about a reinvention. And it's going to be those leaders within our industry around the world that understand that a reinvention is a hell of a lot harder than transitioning. I believe there's a reason that the CEO of Xerox, Stephen B., talks about Xerox being in a reinvention mode versus a transition mode. Because a transition mode is just a permission to show up today. As all industries all over the world are learning that their customers' experience is determined in that intersection between that digital and physical world. Everybody knows that. And more of that experience is weighted in that intersection. So all companies have to go through a transition, a digital transition. Xerox is in an industry. Altron is in an industry, being one of the largest Xerox distributors in the world, an industry that's going through a massive disruption based on the fact that the industry's end users are looking more and more in that intersection between the physical and digital world. And folks, our industry's on the edge of that intersection, mostly in the physical part. And more of our industry has to understand that we got to get into that, digital part. The physical and digital worlds are colliding at rapid speed. When I was at the Altron event listening to the leaders of Altron talking about digital services, when I listened to Xerox, the leader of Xerox at the Altron meeting in South Africa, or all the leaders at Xerox at their annual meeting in Vegas, which was just a few weeks ago, Xerox understands that intersection between the digital and physical world. Xerox understands that we have to have digital services to offset the declines in print services. Folks, at the end of the day, the print industry will always sell equipment to businesses that print stuff. The reality of it is they will continue to get less revenue for the products that they sell. They will continue to get less annuity on those products because the volumes continue to decline. And what's refreshing about talking with these dealer owners in the African continent is these folks are some bold leaders. Probably why I like going there so much. These are some bold leaders. These are true entrepreneurs. Some of these folks have businesses that are on the edge of the biggest desert in the world. Think about it. Think about some of their struggles. Some of these folks have businesses in that African continent, in countries that are going through, quite substantially tough times, if you will. Even our friends in South Africa are experiencing their own problems. All over the world, we have geopolitical problems. There's no doubt about that. But ladies and gentlemen, all over the world, we also have entrepreneurs that are, passionate about their business. And they understand that it's about continuous movement. It's about continuous modification that keeps these businesses stable, that keeps these businesses going for the next generation. Our industry is not going to be about saving what was so great in the past and hand over what we save to the younger generation. Our industry is going to be developed because the younger generation is eager to learn from the past, but more eager to reinvent the past. Folks, it was such an amazing time there in Africa. You know, I put a couple slides together here. I want to share some thoughts with you. And I would say this: when bold leaders work together, status quo don't stand a chance. You know, one of the reasons that I'm a big fan of Warren Bandy, the managing director of Altron, is because he is a bold leader. And he's got some strong visions. He came in as the managing director of Altron when things weren't going so great. Turned that thing around and things are going pretty damn good at Altron. Good for the direct and good for the indirect. It's safe to say that Altron is definitely forging a new path to the future. When I think about Stephen B., the CEO of Xerox, you know, he hasn't been at the helm that long. But at the end of the day, you know, when Xerox bought Lexmark, I heard from some other leaders in the industry, and they said, well, Ray, what do you think about, you know, Xerox buying Lexmark? And I said to him this. I said, you know, Xerox is on the field playing the game, scoring. And a lot of the industry's leaders are sitting on the bench, and they need to get their ass in the game. And you can say what you want about Xerox, but Xerox is playing the game. Xerox went out there and acquired IT Savvy. They want to understand, they want to navigate better in that intersection between the digital and physical world. Xerox went out, said, hey, we're going to buy Lexmark. They want to add to their MIF. When they add to their MIF, well, guess what? Xerox becomes more powerful to the other OEM or manufacturers. Xerox is playing to reinvent the industry. Stephen stood on stage in Vegas, and he stood on stage at the Altron meeting, and he said he will not be consolidated, he will be the consolidator. We'll see what that means. We'll see the reality of that. My vision of that is they intend to consolidate distribution at street level. Makes a lot of sense. After all, they're the largest dealer in the world delivering print equipment to end users. That's just a fact. And I know some folks out there are looking at the Xerox stock and they're saying Xerox is going to go bankrupt, Xerox this and Xerox that. And I'll tell you all this. If the largest dealer that delivers print equipment to the end users in the world, well, goes away, that's not good for anybody in this industry. Not good at all. And at the end of the day, I don't see that happening. I do believe Xerox has its struggles because they're on the stock market. I think about some of these mega dealers out there. I mean, you know, there's only one that we get a little bit of a peek at their financial situation. But there's a whole lot of other mega dealers out there that are owned by private equity that all that information is silenced. Could you imagine if those folks had to show up every 90 days and show their numbers so the whole world could dig in and say, wow, Xerox would do much better if they could get off the stock market. That's one of the things I'm wishing happens for them. Time will tell. But at the end of the day, the folks at Altron, the folks at Xerox should be proud of the leaders they have, because I believe they're bold and I believe that they are definitely focused on reinventing an industry. Thinking about Africa. I mean, what an amazing continent. You know, ladies and gentlemen, this is Africa here. We got all the states, if you will, all the countries, if you will, countries, if you will, within Africa. You know, some people think Africa is one country, but Africa is a whole lot of countries. And Africa's huge. If you look over here, you can see the size of the United States fitting into Africa. You can see China fitting into Africa. You can see where India fits into Africa, Eastern Europe. At the end of the day, Africa is massive. And there's all kinds of different cultures, different countries on this continent. And at the end of the day, it is an amazing place. And the people are truly amazing. But the size and scope of Africa is phenomenal. You think about the world. Our industry is not different anywhere in the world. However, the leaders within our industry will determine their own fate. It's not about where you are in the world. I mean, I listen to some of my friends here in the United States complain about a territory within a state and how they got such a disadvantage. And I start thinking about some of the territories within some of the countries inside of Africa. And I think you got a problem. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter where you're at in the world. It doesn't matter what business you're in. Your leadership, it matters how they think. Are they thinking about the future? Are they dragging the past to the future? Or are they delivering the future to the present? Leadership in our industry will determine the fate of our industry and the fate of those companies within our industry. It has nothing to do with where you're at in the world. It has to do with your mindset. It has to do with who you partner with. Because everything in our industry is changing rapidly, being disrupted like it's never been disrupted before. I love the opportunity to go around the world and talk to these different principals of these different dealerships, if you will. Amazing stories, but all those stories have a similarity. A similarity is independent thinking people that woke up one day and said, I'm going to work for myself. I'm going to build a business. I'm going to hire people. I'm going to try to change my part of the world in any way that I can. Me, along with my people. And those stories are amazing, no matter where you hear them around the world. I want to wrap up today's episode with this, but there's going to be another episode regarding Altron later next week. I'm going to interview Stuart Daniels, one of their executives in Cape Town, who took it upon himself and some really good, strong friends, if you will, and started Cape Town Nexus Football Academy. I put a little video out there while I was there in South Africa, but this story, Stuart Daniels and what he's doing with these kids in Africa is truly amazing. I mean, it pulled at my heartstrings. But I want to interview him. I want him to share the story because I think our industry sometimes, especially my friends here in the U.S., we get a little bit short-sighted. We think the world is really about us and what we're doing. And it's great when you can see the whole wide world. And when you can see the different things that are people doing to help people around the world. So tune in next week for that episode. And until then, my friends, think about it this way. No matter what we want, the only way we're going to get it is through vision, is through having a clear mission, and surrounding ourselves with the people to help us get us there, no matter where we live in the world. Everybody watching me knows this. Status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.